I think we're ready. Okay, what's happening? Are we live? Are you guys alive? Am I dead? Sorry, it's never too late for a little bit of joking. I love joking. I almost love joking as much as I love playing guitar, but it seems people don't like my jokes as much as they like my guitar playing, so I'm out of luck. I'm never gonna be a joker. I'll be a guitar player, maybe someday. Are you guys even out there? If you are, how are you guys doing? Can you see me? Can you hear me? That's an important one. Okay, we have 1 minute left here, which is why I'm goofing around with you. But if you are here and if you do see me, it is definitely appreciated if you want to drop me a hello there, so I know that we're ready to roll. So, yep, today's topic is one that is very dear to my heart. Very soon, in just 1 minute, I will announce it and we'll get rolling. It'll be cool. We got Diwash in here. What's up, my man? I hope you're doing good. We got Jim. Awesome. Jim, what's up, my man? That's awesome. Thanks to you confirming that we're actually live and working here. We're gonna get rolling. Okay, we got Comdesk here. What's up, my man? So. I like starting with a question, so I'll start with a question. What is the number one thing that is the foundation for anything you can remember in music? Let me think. Could it be melodies? It might be melodies. Pretty much anything you can remember in terms of music is going to have a melody in it. Sometimes you might remember the occasional rhythm or something like that, but it usually has some kind of melody to it as well. So melody is super important. That is why we're going to speak about melody today. And we're going to speak of it in a way where you're hopefully going to realize that it doesn't matter at all if you're just starting out on the guitar or if you want to get more advanced with your melody making. Because melodies should be the foundation for anything you do. So it doesn't matter if you want to go advanced, we'll try to go a bit advanced in this session, or if you want to keep it simple. Regardless of which, you gotta have melody into your playing. That's so important, that's everything. So we're going to speak about that. Melody, that's right, Comdesk. We need some good lessons today, Divash. That's good. That's why we're here. Provide you with good lessons. Hopefully, at least. So before we get rolling, you just have to check out the link in the description that says study material. It is going to save you a lot of time and effort if you check that link, because in there we have some important stuff. We do have the example melody, which we will build upon. We also have a video, which was from yesterday, where I held the same stream on Facebook, but you can just disregard that because you have me live now. So I guess that's better, because then you can ask me questions or just random statements or whatever you feel like. But anyhow, we have tabs there. We have Guitar Pro tabs. We have at least one scale diagram, maybe even two. Yes, two scale diagrams. And we even have a backing track suggestion. That is something we'll use at the end of the session. It's not totally related, but in a way it is. Okay, let's go. First of all, what is a melody? It's a phrase that you can remember, right? It's something that touches you. It's something that's strong. Now that's going to be fairly individual, but there are some common denominators. For example, if a melody features, should I say, strong notes, basically notes that appear in the rhythm harmony or in the backing harmony, then we tend to stand a greater chance to actually come up with a good melody. In this session, I'm just going to give you a melody to start with, because we will be working on expanding upon a melody and make it sound better and better and more advanced, right? So I'm just going to give you a melody to start off with, and this should be something you should be able to play regardless of your level. Even if you just pick up the guitar, you should try this. Okay. Very short, very simple, but that is our melody. This is is what we're going to use as a foundation to build upon. So let's analyze it. We're playing here on the 9th fret G string. To simplify things, we could actually just say we're in the key of C major. I don't know if it simplifies things, but I just said it anyway. So we're in the key of C major. And we're going to play the 9th fret G string there. And then we're going to move up to the B string and play that 8th fret on the B string. And we're going to move all the way up to the 10th fret with our ring finger and play the B string. And then finally we'll go back to the first note. So we have... That's our basic melody, okay? If this feels difficult for you, pause the video, or if you're from the future, you can pause the video. If you're here right now, maybe not pause the video, but you can practice this first, right, to get that melody down. If you think this is some boring stuff, this one's for you. Okay, so what can we do? What can we add on this, add onto this melody to make it sound more interesting? I, for one, like when there's something happening in the bass, right? When we get some harmony. I can't remember the last time I dug a song that didn't have a cool bass line. It never happened. Bass is important. Can we play bass on the guitar? I think we can. Let's try adding a bass note to this melody, okay? Typically, when going for bass notes, our best bet is going to be the low E string, because that's the lowest string, that's the most bass sounding string we got. It's not perfect, but it's definitely better than the higher strings, right? Than the thinner strings. So let's play the low E string, and in order for this to fit well, we're going to play this note of C, because as I said, we're in the key of C major here. So before playing the first note, let's first do... Ooh! I'm already digging this. Not too bad. So what am I doing here? I'm playing the low E string on the 8th fret right before I'm hitting the first note. And then, and this is super important, I let both ring, okay? If I don't do that, it sounds like this. Which is okay, I guess, but it's definitely not that foundation of harmony we're looking for, right? We're looking for a bass note that is gonna stay there and allow us to hear that melody note in a context. Super simple, but bear with me, this is gonna get cool. And to be honest with you, we could just end the video here and you could play notes from the C major scale. Yeah, I recognize that, right? I can't play, but you could play stuff just with one bass note and one top note, and you'd be playing basically using the same techniques as many famous songs, right? This in itself is a super useful tool. If you're a beginner and you don't know how to sound good, try this. Make sure your guitar's in tune, check out the scale diagram I've given you, and that's a very good start. But we don't want to stop there. We want to continue. So, B pull, awesome. I can feel the love, it's mutual. So, we've already covered the basic melody C major. If you look on the tab, there's going to be a title that says Basic Melody C Major. That's the first melody. Then we went over to adding a bass movement. So you check the tab and it's going to say add bass movement, right? So we're going to keep that note ringing like that. And we're going to play the whole melody again. Right? If you compare it without the bass note with almost one more time without, one more time with. So I prefer the one with a bass note. It sounds so much richer and fuller. Maybe if you're following this on a phone, you can't really hear the bass. But trust me, When you get home to your guitar, you try with the bass note, you are gonna hear a difference. But again, I want to remind you, keep that note ringing. That's important, otherwise you get this. You don't get that richness, right? We need to have this note ringing. Okay, that's our first bass note. Now let's add some more, right? We don't want to stop there. We can even add a slight bass movements. Maybe something like this. Nice! So what did I do? So if we just listen to the bass note, we get this. Okay. Gives me a lot of ideas already. Again, this kind of example, to me, is like a bit like opening Pandora's box if you've never done this. You can apply this to anything and everything. You just have to somewhat figure out how to, make the notes fit. But that is why I'm giving you these examples. So you should start with trying to play exactly the same way I do it. And then when you sort of understand how I phrase this, and again, the guitar profile in the link in the description is gonna be useful to help you understand the timing and stuff like that. Once you've understood that, and you can apply it to your own lines, again, Pandora's box will open up for you. Okay, so we have this. Slowly. And you might have noticed I like to play it with the thumb. That's an easy way of doing it, I think. If you're in the beginning of your guitar playing career, you can just keep your thumb on the E string. It's a good way to keep track of where your fingers are. So if you always play that bass note with the E string, with the thumb, you can maybe pick the other notes with your fingers. If you're already comfortable with using the pick, you can try using that. I would probably avoid that big string jump just because it's easy to hit the wrong string. So I'll typically use either pick with finger or maybe only fingers for this one. That doesn't really matter here. We're not trying to show you how to play something super fast or develop your technique. This is purely about understanding how you can build on a basic melody. We're not really involving a lot of technical topics here. It's just melody, melody, melody. Okay, so we have something pretty cool here. We have Subu in the room. What's up? I'm progressing quickly now because I think there's a good point in trying to just go through these examples, and then we're going to have a lot of time for anything we want to speak about. Anyhow, now I think comes the most interesting part. We've done the basic melody, we've added a bass movement, we've added a second bass movement. As you can tell in the tab, I've written as second bass movement. Now let's do the last thing here before our little example is complete. Let's add a chord, okay? So, we're gonna try to squeeze in a chord in here. And why would we want to do that? Well, again, if we can throw in some additional harmony, it's gonna make things more interesting. That doesn't mean it's wrong to play this. The first melody is perfectly fine, and if you have a whole band backing you, maybe the better option is actually to play just a basic melody, because maybe you have a second guitarist doing stuff, maybe you have a bass player doing stuff and sort of filling out the gaps in the arrangement. But then even with such an arrangement, maybe you'd like to sort of take things to a climax and you want to be able to add more and more dimensions to your playing. Maybe you want to start out with a basic melody and then you want the song to build towards something cool. Well, that's a good example to start when you would want to start adding harmonies. Maybe throw in like a chord instead of just one note. Instead of just playing, you can do, right? It's the same kind of note we're hearing in the end, but we use some harmony to get there. And all these things I'm mentioning, they are super useful tools. When the time is right to use it is pretty much up to you, and that's the kind of thing you learn with experience. Just because you know a whole bunch of tricks and techniques doesn't mean you should use them all the time. And in fact, songwriting in itself is really just a big exercise in restraint, I would say. But you still need those tools. You just got to use them on the right place, and often the trick is to use them sparsely, I guess is a word, not very often. Okay, so having said all of that, let's move on to our final example, where we are gonna throw in a chord to spice things up. Okay, one more time. One more time. One more time. So I find myself, I'm really a lead kind of guy, and to be honest with you, I am in some ways a little bit of a beginner when I explore these things, and that's why I'm not always happy with exactly the tone I'm getting. So I want to redo a whole bunch of times until it sounds right to me. But there you have the basic idea, right? We're going to add those bass notes, and in the middle we're going to do... That's our chord. This happens to be a suspended chord. However, if you don't know what that is, if you never played that, if you're wondering how the hell am I going to come up with a suspended chord, no worries. I didn't think of it as being a suspended chord when I decided to play it. I simply looked at the scale position I've given you, and I tried to find a way to play several notes at the same time. Because that's what a chord is. It's just several notes played at the same time. Depending on which notes you choose, the chord is going to get different names. But if you use the scale, the notes that are contained within the key you're in, it's going to sound fine, okay? You don't have to worry about bad sounding chords or whatever. It's going to sound fine. And that is why I've given you this scale diagram, C major, so that you can see both where the melody comes from, where the bass comes from, and now this chord. All these notes are taken from that scale box, and you could use other notes. You could use any notes of that scale box. So instead of doing, you could probably do, yes. All of these sound good because they're in the scale box. Thank me later. It gets easier when you have a context, right? When I'm telling you that, hey, here's the melody, it's in C major, and here's the scale diagram, you can combine it. You can use any notes as your bass notes. You can use any notes in that scale diagram as your chordal notes. It gets very interesting. It gets easy to be creative when you have a kind of framework that you know is going to work. And that's exactly what I've given you in this link in the description. So I really encourage you to have a go at this. But now I'm going to show you more precisely what I'm playing here. We've already gone through those bass movements. So let's just look at the chord. We're going to be fretting the 7th fret here. And we're going to be thumbing. We're going to be plucking with our thumb the first note. That's the kind of bass note we're getting here. It's a rather high bass note, but who cares? We have several other bass notes that are lower in register, so it's not like we're not giving the listener some of the low register. But here, for the sake of a somewhat easy chord to fret, we're gonna bar like 1, 2, 3 notes is actually enough. So you don't have to, if you're not comfortable with barré chord, doing like a full barré of 6 strings, that's difficult. So you can just do 3 strings for starting from the A string. So those 3 notes on the 7th fret and then the 10th fret on the G string. No, on the B string, okay? Now you might have noticed, it's that note we're aiming for. So the top note of our chord becomes the note that is leading the melody there. So we have. Okay, nice. We can calm down now. We've gone through our examples. Thank you, Subu, for your great words. We're definitely gonna move on to other topics. I have to admit that I don't have a clue on how I would go about playing a Hindustani music. I guess I could, if I had a backing track, I could, but it wouldn't sound Hindustani. I can almost guarantee that. I'd have to get more context. I have to listen to the phrasing and maybe even try to analyze, the scale and stuff like that, so I can somewhat get an impression of where the music comes from. But I love exploring new genres, especially those that feel exotic to me, to my Swedish ears. So I definitely wouldn't mind that. But just to wrap things up here, maybe this topic was a bit taken out of the blue because I've been doing more shred than rock-oriented things. However, just because I have a clean tone, that doesn't really mean anything. You can play this with a distorted tone, it's going to sound equally cool. And melody is going to be your foundation regardless of, if you like distortion or not. Trust me, a shred solo without melody, I don't know. It's like food without food or something. It's not good, right? It's just like an exercise, and we can't listen to exercises for a very long time. We need melody as a foundation regardless of what we do. And this is going to be a recurring theme in many of these live streams. How do you work on incorporating melodies into your runs? I did a session before Christmas on exactly that. So you can find that if you go through the old live streams. And we're going to do more because it's a big topic and there are a million different ways you can go about doing that. But this topic that we're doing today is just a different approach, right? We're approaching it with a clean sound, which allows us to get a few more extra notes ringing together. And it basically creates a really nice feel, I think. It's a contrast, If we've been playing with a distorted tone for ages, then it's nice to turn down that distortion and play something else. At least I like that. Cool comm desk, I agree. It's definitely one of the most important topics, especially if you ask the listener. Most listeners, they don't want to see us play fast. They want to hear us play a cool melody they can hum to, maybe they can groove along, they can dance to, they can remember. So yes, melody is important. But it doesn't end there. So Subu, while you give me some pointers as to how I would go about playing a Hindustani music, again, I'm going to need your help. I'm going to proceed a little bit and further exemplify how you can use this knowledge in a different context over a backing track when jamming. So, while I do that, feel free to think about any, questions you have or thoughts, or maybe I went through everything too quickly and you want me to do it again, whatever, just shoot and I'll be able to help you out. But now I'm going to go again to that link in the description, and I'm going to see if I can find the jam track. It says jam track, add 9 arpeggio ballad. That's the one I'm going to open. And in case you guys don't know what I'm doing here, let's see. No, let's just do that. Okay. So this lesson isn't related to what we're doing in any way. I'm just here for the backing track. It's a very nice backing track, and it's in the key of E minor. So that means the exact notes I've shown you are gonna work. However, if you wanna improvise more freely, then you should instead use the E minor scale. There's just one note that is different from the C major scale, so it doesn't really matter. But if you want to be correct and you want to be able to play to your heart's content and not think exactly about the shapes and melody I showed you, then use the E minor scale instead. I'm going to be using just a mix of anything, but most importantly, I'm going to try to illustrate what we've done in this lesson in a context. So let's try it. Here's our basic melody. Works, right? again, forget about everything else and just play variations of that melody and you're gonna be fine. That's the power of melodies, right? But let's try it. It's getting more advanced, right? We're doing exactly what I showed you in the context of jamming as well. Cool, we have a great question there by Comdisc. Will you also explain how to use the question and answer method to make melody and build a song? Awesome question there, for sure. We can look at that. We have a perfect situation for that because I've just shown you a cool melody that could be used as a starting point. And we have our backing track here. So let's go over to this straight away. What if I want to try the call and response or question and answer method? How would that work, and could I use this melody? Well, let's try it. Let's pretend this is our first statement or our call. Just one note would actually be enough. And I can very well see how would be a response. And then comes another call here. The response could be a little different. It could be... So if you look at the scale diagram I've given you, you have more notes at your disposal, right? Instead of just doing... You could do... So again, if you picture a conversation where someone is saying something, then that person gets a reply, says something again, gets maybe a different reply. That's the conversation, right? How boring would a conversation be that went like this all the time? We don't want that, right? We want maybe to use that as a starting point. And then maybe even... But then it starts getting interesting here, if you ask me, because I wouldn't have thought of this specific variation without visualizing my playing as some form of call and response, question and answer, or conversational thing. And that is the great power with the call and response method. It's a way to visualize or resemble musical phrasing to a spoken conversation. And because most people are much more used to speaking than they are playing, it can be of great help. There's nothing magic with it. It's just a different way to sort of, how should I say, tweak our inspiration there, or fiddle with our inspiration, something. Why not? It's awesome. We can definitely use that first part in a call and response situation. And in fact, just the fact that we have something returning will give our playing so much more structure. It will convey a sense of structure to the listener. We're not just playing any random stuff here. We are returning to a theme. And of course, while you and I know, this is super simple, right? We're just repeating a motif. Couldn't get easier. We're just repeating. Repeating is easier than coming up with new things. We're alternating between repeating a motif and coming up with new stuff. Right? So it gets easier and it sounds better if you use this call and response method. To me, it's like a super win-win. couldn't imagine better. So let's see what you guys are saying. Okay. So, Subu is saying you need to listen more to the backing track, to get the right feel. And slides are more important. I don't know if it sounds like that, maybe? Maybe, if I do that with a slightly more exotic scale, maybe? No. You see, I'm a Swede. What do you expect from me? But this is fun, and this is also one of the reasons why I said I love exploring new genres. Again, just by... I didn't even have to sort of absorb something new. I just had to push myself to come up with something different. A lot of times, that is what practicing is about. Find a way to fool yourself into doing something differently, hopefully better. So there's a good saying there that the biggest opponent is from within, and it's so true. We tend to make sure we get stuck in those boring habits that prevent us from doing progress. So I definitely think it's a good idea to push yourself into any direction that inspires you. And now I'm inspired to try to do these slides simply because I don't want to look like a fool and not be able to deliver anything. Of course, I'm quite sure Subu is gonna not think that this sounds anything like Hindustani music, but it still pushes me to do something new. Cool. This backing you are playing is awesome and melodic. It would be good if you mentioned me this backing track name. Okay, Subu, you have the link in the description, right? It says backing track on that page. You know what? I can just give you the link directly as well. Here we go. That's the backing track. And as usual, if you're not familiar with GMC, you can always find the free version, which is the short version. If you want the jam track version, that's part of the paid plan. But you can definitely have a lot of fun and jam a lot just using the free version there. It doesn't require any account or anything like that. You can just play it right away. And that is why I think this kind of content works kind of well in our streams here. You can just use the content straight away as it is. Okay. So why don't we, while we're on the topic, why don't we try adding some extra slides on this backing track, just for the hell of it. But now we have to go back to, I guess, E minor. Let's add some more exotic notes. Yes, Subu, you can use it for free. I'm just gonna show you how there so you don't miss it out. So, where are we? Okay, you can see now where I am, right? The jam track is not free, but if you scroll to the top, the first track is. Likewise, the first parts of the lesson, the first videos in the beginning here, they're gonna be free as well. So you have free videos and you have a free backing track here, okay? Okay. But am I getting any exotic sounds out of this backing track? You tell me. So let's do some Phrygian dominant. I don't know if I like that. Let's add some more distortion here. Okay, so maybe you wanna. I'm just gonna show you this lick because it's so cool. It's kind of basic, right? But it sounds awesome. Army, what's up, my man? So try this. Play the 9th fret on the G string, and then slide up. No, sorry. Pull off to the 7th fret. Okay. So we're gonna pick that 9th fret. We're gonna pull off to the 7th, but then we're gonna move back up to the 9th fret, and that's where we get the magic. So. Right? So we pick the 9th fret, we pull off, and we move up. So we're in essence fooling the ear here because we're only playing the same note over and over with a little bit of a slide. So we get this. So Army, you're gonna ask me to do Japanese stuff, and I'll just, well, we can always try, just because you're here. Ooh, Subu thinks it sounds Hindustani. You're probably being too kind. So when I repeat this pattern, what I'm doing is, it's only the first time I pick. The rest of the notes are sort of self-generating. And I'm hammering on for nowhere. Right? So the note comes from hammering on and then sliding. Okay, so I don't know if we're ready for Japanese here. Let's try it. Does it sound Japanese? Let's try to add slides with that. I just gotta figure the scale out a little bit here. No. Oh man. I don't know. My Japanese playing skills, I think they need more work. Jerry, awesome. I am very honored if you want to steal my licks. Means the world, man. Steal them. Kind of nice backing track, don't you think? And to be honest with you, Javier, who is one of my co-instructors here, and who's written this backing track, he's like this is going to be a little plug, but I think he has like 100 lessons, and you know all his backing tracks are freaking amazing. You know, he runs a professional studio, so that's why it sounds awesome. I think we got another great question there from Comdesk. Can you explain how to build a song with a melody that has a beginning, middle, and end? Perhaps using the question and A method. Thanks very much for your great teaching. Cool. I think what I can do is probably in the context of this kind of static backing track. If I were to start nailing out, you know, verse and different sections, that would take me a long time, right? But I can show you in terms of dynamics of how I would go about just, you know, as far as the guitar playing goes. Let's say you're in charge of coming up with a instrumental song, and you want it to be based around the melodies of your guitar, right? So there are some general pointers, some general rules that I think make up for very great starting points here. And one of them, probably the most important one, relates to dynamics. You want to save your horsepower. This is important. There's only so much dynamics we can use before you've, exhausted what the listener can take, and maybe, the output of your guitar. You can hit the strings hard to a certain point, but so that's why you don't want to start hammering everything out. You want to start super gently. You want to start in the lower register, right? You don't want to exhaust all your high notes. You want to save those for the climax, for later on. That's how you build something powerful and strong. You start gently, you save your horsepower, and then gradually you add more dynamics and you build towards something. This is general advice that is almost always applicable in some way. So I think it's absolutely critical, whether you want to build a guitar solo, whether you want to write a song, whether you want to sing a song, whatever, you have to think in terms of dynamics, right? You start gently, and then gradually you go loud. Gradually you go crazy. So we can apply the same over this backing track, right? I've only given you the E minor, one of the boxes. I'm going to be using E minor over the whole fretboard to illustrate this point. Because, again, I don't want to be just sticking to one position. I want to use contrast and dynamics through my note choice. I want to start low and go too high. So why not try to replicate some kind of melody here? That's fine, but it has a bit too many notes if I want to start it out like that, okay? Ooh, that's a good one. Lumberfoot, some Scandinavian Swedish melodies. I'm gonna have a hard time resisting that one. But first I'm gonna show you how I would go about building a melody here. Okay, so we have an idea that we can use, right? We can use there we have it. So we can start with that in case we run out of inspiration. I don't like that. Let's just hint that note. Anyhow, you get the picture there. You need something that is both has restraint and that starts with the low notes here. That's a very good strategy for starting off. Now, maybe you just want to add less distortion there. It's better. Why not? That's a good starting point. You could try to have a theme that repeats in the lower register, and then later on, maybe there's some kind of bridge going towards the next song section. That is a good time for you to also start transitioning to the higher register. Again, since you've saved upon that, you can build some climax there. So let's pretend we have a bridge or something. You could do something. Some kind of transition up to the higher register is also like a very classic thing to do. You can think of it a little bit as if you need to sort of take the listener by the hand, just as you would do with like a toddler or something, and just take him and guide the listener, right? It's like, okay, listener, we're starting off here, but now take my hand and I will lead you up to the higher register. Right? So that is one way of thinking that can help you build a melody in a song context. Now, it's so multidimensional. I'm trying to give you some super generic advice here on the fly. So, take it for what it is. But these are some, I would say, totally bulletproof principles. You can never go wrong with this, right? It's an awesome starting point. These general terms. You don't obviously always want to be doing or anything like that. It's going to get boring, right? But the principle can almost always apply. I think this is a decent chunk right now. Maybe we can have some kind of, some tutorial for building a solo. That would be pretty cool. I haven't thought about that. It could be the topic of a coming live stream. Who knows? Okay, but Lumberfoot. The thing is, I wouldn't say we have that many characteristic like jingles, stuff, or whatever that I can think of. Actually, when I try to think of typical Scandinavian or Swedish that can actually be transferred to the guitar, I'm thinking more of like a Scottish, like what would that be? No, right? Or maybe. That kind of thing. I think if you would ask someone who's on the other side of the world and who maybe doesn't even know the difference between Switzerland and Sweden, I think this will be closer in the ballpark. But other than that, I can't think. Well, actually, the most Swedish thing I can think of is probably to turn up the distortion and do, but that's characteristic to like a Swedish guitarist, right? We all know his name. I don't know. But why not? This kind of... But I used to have a better way of doing it. So basically doing like E major pentatonics, or just E major, and have both the high E string ringing and the B string, and trying to play with a typical Scottish kind of swing. I don't know. I'm crap at that. Good night, Subu. Thanks for the inspiration. So those are some challenging requests there, but it's a lot of good fun there. Am I in the wrong key there? Why doesn't it sound well? I don't know. Keep them coming. Keep the requests coming. So Comdex, I hope that the sort of quick analysis of how you can build some tension with a melody, I hope it's somewhat useful. It's a definitely cool topic, and I think for me to deliver something more powerful in terms of messaging there, I would probably need to prepare some more. Willie, what's up, my man? Yngwie J. Malmsteen, father of neoclassical. That's right. Haha, I was having a hard time thinking about a Swedish melody myself. Yngwie style or Swedish death metal are the first things that come to mind. Or ABBA maybe, I don't know. Money, money, money. Okay, well, since I pretty much covered everything I wanted to, why don't we go exploring some backing tracks here? I'll just share my screen with you. Oh, I was just sitting here saying how cool Javier's backing tracks are, so let's try them out. funky melody and rhythm. That's an acoustic one. So let's try this one also by her. Yeah, why not? Let's try. What's the key? G pentatonic minor Cs. Yeah, you also have the scale down here. Oh, so that's a backing track with lots of long breaks. Not sure we like that. Actually, it's kind of cool with long breaks. It forces you to not just noodle away, right? You have to be very active and conscious. So it's great practice. But since I was getting tired in my head, it's not what I had thought. Okay, let me just remove that. See if we can do this. This is going to be a challenge, I think. It's a totally different genre, just to throw things around a little bit. We're in the key of G minor pentatonic, so you can play on the 3rd fret. And there's your silence. There's our break again. Well, you know what? If you can do better, please record and send me. This was a super challenging backing track. Timothy, what's up, my man? It's been a while. Nice guitar. Thank you, thank you. I should probably say something about my guitar. People often ask me, wow, is that a vintage Strat? It's not a vintage Strat, but the brand is called Vintage Icon, and it's a super cheap brand. This is the kind of thing that you can get new for 200 to 300 euros or the corresponding dollars, I'd assume. But it's cool because it's a brand, I think it's partly owned by Wilkinson or something. The part provider, Wilkinson, they sell guitar parts, and they're known for having good quality, and you get those parts, right? So decent hardware, and you get a pretty cool looking guitar, and it happens the neck was really nice, so you end up with something that's actually pretty cool, pretty decent guitar. I didn't like the pickups, though. No, actually they were okay. They were low output, which is the way I wanted, which is what you would expect from this kind of guitar. And I prefer low output pickups, but it does require more from those pickups. So I invested in some really cool pickups. These are bare knuckle Apache. They're like lowest output single coils, but they're so cool because I've connected them with in series here. Yeah, in series. So I can really get I can either get the twang, right? That, or I can get some, can even get some nice distortion out of this one. Or nice, but distortion. Something. You can do your English stuff. Whatever. So it works for a lot of different contexts. I'm actually very pleasantly surprised. So yeah, if I didn't buy it because I expected a cool guitar. I bought it because I wanted a cheap and decently looking guitar, so I could do some modification on it. The reason I wanted to learn how to do that was because I started getting, I had more guitars, and maintenance was becoming an issue. Gets too expensive if you're going to run to the luthier each time you have to do something with the guitar. So I told myself, man, I need to get better at this. Otherwise, I can't have 10 different guitars that don't work, right? So I either need to pay lots of money and take them to luthiers, or I learn to fix them myself. And that's why I got this instrument. So I did more stuff with this one. I put in new pickups, and I put in a more complex wiring scheme. So I have like a tone treble bleed here. So, it cleans up kind of nicely thanks to this. Without it, it would sound like this when I turn it down. It would sound totally soft, which is also fine. It's a different feeling, but I can get both now thanks to this push-pull. And I've also thrown in the always on switch for this pickup, which means I can play these two together. So that's this pickup and this pickup. And I can also do these two in series, which is cool because if I add both that one, if I add the middle position here and the always on, I get all three pickups. I don't know how good that is, but at least it's cool to be able to say you can use all three pickups, right? I should try with less distortion here. See? As opposed to... So this is just the middle position. Now if I add this one, I get all three. It's usable. I can definitely see that, when you're recording stuff, you might want to try that. Just find the exact right blend you're looking for. So it has like an advanced switching scheme, which I did by myself. Took some time to sort of understand how to do that. And I also leveled the frets. That was kind of important. And that's often the issue with cheap guitars. Because even if you happen to stumble upon a guitar that sounds good and is cheap, that definitely can happen, especially if you have access to a big guitar store and you can try the guitars out. That's awesome. I don't. So this is just purely by chance via web shops. But anyhow, the guitar sounded good. The guitar sounds good, but action was really bad, right? If you're gonna pay $200 to $300, you're not gonna get a pro luthier who sets the guitar up, because that would cost just $200 to $300. It's by itself, right? So you have to find a solution for that. So I got myself this tool, which, granted is a bit of an investment, but I've used it a lot, so it's well worth it. This is called a Katana by Rectify Master. I'm not affiliated in any way. It's like a small Japanese guy, I think you buy from. So I ordered from Japan and there were taxes and whatnot. But it's cool because I can do like a truss rod adjustment here. So it actually bends just like a guitar would do. And then you can squeeze this under the strings and you can actually fret level the guitar while the strings are on, which is amazing because then you can just do a little bit and you try it out and yeah, this is nice, and you go for it. If you do like more heavy fret leveling, so if you really stick around for quite a while and do a lot of that, you're gonna have to work the frets if you want to get round edges. So you're gonna have to work quite a bit on it. So that's a nicer feel, but you know what? I didn't really care that much. I just wanted decent string action, and it all worked. So that's what this guitar is. It's a little project of mine. So I guess the pickups are probably worth more than the guitar, but what was most worth to me was actually the fact that I got to practice these things. And if I had completely messed up, you know, it wouldn't have cost me a vintage Strat. It just cost me a vintage Icon Strat, which I guess is nothing compared to if you go to a Lutheran course or something. So yeah, that seemed like a good thing to do. Maybe you want to try it as well. Are the pickups flush with guard? I'm not sure what that means. Flush with guard. The pickup guards are also like the vintage color I ordered from Bare Knuckle. They have really nice options, so you can really fit the pickups to whatever color you're going for. But if you clarify Nakuda, maybe I can better understand. So Neth, you thought it was a Vigier. I'd love to try one. That's a French brand, right? I don't have any such, super high level guitars there. I have like a Japanese RG is probably one of the better guitars I have, and like an American Parker guitar and something like that. But I'm fine with that because to me the biggest thing of having different guitars is not really to look for that one perfect guitar. It's rather to get inspiration through various different instruments. Especially if you're going to be practicing a lot, then you can search for variations. You find different backing tracks, you find different lessons and licks and stuff to practice. And you dial in different sounds and you play different guitars. That actually works for me. It's maybe not the best thing you'd like to hear as a beginner, that you should get many guitars, because you shouldn't, But after a while, if you've been practicing for years and years and years and years, then yes, if you can find a cheap guitar that inspires you, I'd say go for it. Why not? And if you can find an expensive guitar that inspires you and you can afford it, go for it. It's a lot of fun. And it does help you in terms of inspiration, at least if you ask me. Just switching between instruments seems to help. Are they flush? Okay, got it, Nakuda. Yeah, they're pretty low actually. So with the exception of this I don't know if you can even see that. This one is a bit higher, but I've kept them low, and I think if I remember correctly, the Bare Knuckle on the webpage, they say there's some kind of technology that makes it less sensible, I think, to pick up height. But generally, I like to keep them out of the way, and I'm not really, I want the dynamics, I don't want the high output. That's why I got these to start with, right? So generally try to keep them kind of low, but it's worth experimenting because just a few millimeters make quite a difference there. We got BRS reviews here, awesome. Okay, so I get it. So yeah, height of the pickups is not super high. But what's funny with this guitar is is the cheap relicking here. This is like a $2 relic job, but why not? It's fun. I think it also has some kind of weird places. I don't know how much you wear out the guitars in these spots, but who cares? It's fun, it's cheap, and I love the color. It's absolutely gorgeous for this. And now that I think of it, I also did some shielding here. That's why you can see some copper sticking out here on the sides. Because because these are like true single coils, they're a bit noisy, so I tried to do what I could think of to shield the guitar a little bit better, and it had an effect, although it's still somewhat noisy, but yeah, it's okay now. And other things I did, just some classic, filing, is that a word? For the nut or whatever it's called. And yeah, it's a cool guitar. To be honest with you, I could very well imagine having a few more Strats. They're lovely instruments, and they can sound so different, and they're really comfortable and inspiring instruments, and they have that twang, so probably one of my favorite. No, not copper over the paint. It's just that the copper is sticking out here. So basically I have copper under the whole pickguard here, but not under the paint. It's just my amateur way of doing it. Typically, if you were a pro, you wouldn't let the copper stick out like that. I even think the copper I got was some kind of snail remover or something, you know, stuff people use in their gardens here in Sweden to prevent, I don't know, we have those snails that sort of invade. So you can make use of anything in a guitar. Hello, Gitaris from Indonesia. What's up, my man? But yeah, what more can I say about it? You know, it has you know, the truss rod thing, and you can really, it has all the components you'd expect from a Strat. And even, I mean, to me, the 6-point tremolo is the absolute best sounding one, and that's the cheapest one as well. So yeah, you can't really go wrong with a Strat, I'd say. It's a cool instrument. Okay, sorry, Nakuda. Copper over the paint. Preference one on the. Well, paint. I would say paint is cool. I don't really know how that would look with copper instead. But to me, a worn out paint like this is awesome. If I got you right there. Try polishing the frets with 10,000 grit sandpaper. It will play like steel. Cool. Yeah, I should do more polishing here. Actually, I have a lot of guitar work I should do. So I'm really behind that. So if I can just squeeze some more time out of my schedule, I would definitely fix a lot of guitars here. But we'll see when that happens. Maybe next Christmas. So I got a Les Paul knockoff that I put EMGs in it to have a guitar kind of look like that. Yeah. I love to do that as well. You know, you could do a lot of cool stuff with Les Pauls as well. I'd love to have like an SG at some point. An Explorer would be awesome. So many cool stuff you can get. Flying V, maybe, just maybe. I like sitting with the guitar, and I guess you can sit with like a classical position. Just too many nice guitars you can get. But the next session, I'm planning to bring in a nice guitar, which is not that usual. I'm not gonna reveal it yet. It should be on Sunday, the next session here on YouTube, so you can check it out. Oh, you mean for insulating the cavities? Yeah, I've never tried with paint. So it's like special paint you get. Copper seemed easier to me because I had a copper and you could just squeeze it in there. Plus, it seemed to me that, well, the qualities of copper should be, in a way, I thought more shielding than paint, but maybe you can get some paint that has some kind of metal in it. I don't know. That's way beyond my expertise. And also, I'm tempted to actually scallop this guitar. I've done it for like another instrument. But the thing is, you tend to lose a little bit of tone, and it's actually noticeable. But maybe I could do it just on a few spots here. I think that would greatly improve it because I've had to take quite a bit of frets down in order to get the action I wanted, right? Generally, the worse the guitar has been put together, the more you might have to sacrifice from the frets to get it the way you want to. And I did a little bit of sacrificing here. And so again, if you have a guitar that have as your kind of luthering practicing instrument, then you could do something like that. So there's also, at some point, scalloping, it would be cool, but there's a major risk I'll just kill the tone. So we'll see. I think, you know, sound-wise, there's absolutely nothing to complain about. It does sound very... just the fact that, you know, I find it kind of impressive with these low output pickups that you can really go metal with it. Or at least metal enough for me, you know. I realize it doesn't sound anything like, you know, modern chuggy stuff, but you know, I can do some riffing with it, and I'm happy with that. And here you can hear the difference between the series. Now it's just the single coil, and it works. But if I add the series switch there, I get both these pickups. It's a bit juicier. It's not quite as tight, I'd say. So, but for soloing, that's really nice. That juiciness really works well. Now, if you turn it off and just use the one pickup there, you don't really get that sweet connection between the notes, right? Especially cool for like legato. It helps. Now, if I just use one pickup there, I have to work harder, and it's not quite as smooth. I found that just with single coils, these setup works kind of well. But what doesn't work very well, I found the hard way, is when you get like low output humbuckers and you start splitting them and stuff like that. That's not really useful. You'd rather do that with a high output pickup, with a high output humbucker. So what I've come to realize is that for low output single coils, adding these options to be able to combine the pickups is awesome. And the opposite is also true, I guess. Again, with high output humbuckers, you don't want to start, or with low output humbuckers, you don't want to start splitting. It's useless. It is, yeah, spaced out humbucker, definitely. I wonder how it sounds if we're adding. That's not very useful with distortion. I have these two in series plus that one. I guess that's what I'm doing, if that's even possible. It does sound different, so that's probably what I'm doing. Not very useful. To me, there's a big difference, and this is probably even useful in a recording situation, unless you won't gent with it, but it's still kind of useful. So the split position here is awesome for leads, I think. Just that right amount of juice there. The cool thing is, I think I can play on this pickup and still add these on in series somehow. No, doesn't sound like it. I don't know. Forget about that. Cool. So we still have some time. If you guys, we can definitely speak more gear. That's fun. But also, if you guys have any thoughts or questions, like if you'd want me to break down something playing-wise, I'm all yours. The sky is the limit. Imagination sets the borders. I don't know. Musak, what's up, my man? Wait, I had some idea. Maybe something. Musak likes it. Awesome, man. Really glad you dig it. Means the world. We got some questions there. What exercise video would you recommend above all for alternate picking? Cool topic there. That's actually something I've been planning to cover for a while. I just don't know how to approach it. So you want like an exercise video? I'm just gonna take any opportunity here to throw in a shameless plug. But if you do check out here, if you're looking for a video tutorial there, I've designed a course strictly on this with Gabriel. So if you like, wait, let's do this. So maybe you can see that thing there, the arm. It says go strong. If you click the arm, you're going to be taken to a technique course that I've designed with one of my co-instructors here, Gabriel. And it takes you all the way from just warm-up to speed building using all the different picking possibilities. So that's probably a heavy biased answer to what I'd recommend in terms of like if you're looking for specific video. But I would much rather speak a little bit about it here while I have you on the thread. Is that even an expression? Basically picking, it's just not just one beast, it's several different beasts. So you really can't say anything general about picking, because to me picking is like 6 or 7 different techniques summed into one. That is why there's sometimes a bit of a clash when I think maybe, when you're starting out and you're trying to get some answers for picking, you're going to get someone who says one thing and the other one says something totally different, and you're left there alone and you don't know what to do, basically. So here's the deal. With different picking techniques, you can get different picking licks and different, string traverse combinations. But the basic takeaway I'm trying to start off with here is that there are wrongs, stuff you shouldn't do when picking, but there are also very different schools because there are very different people who want to obtain different results, basically. So that's why the jungle of picking is a bit hard to navigate, because it's hard to tell whether what you're being told is bad advice or whether that advice is just specific to certain kind of picking. That's the first thing we got to establish. So for example, if I told you that, I love something that's called downward pick slanting. Basically, I angle down my hand like that, my right hand like this, and it's just so useful whenever, right? For that, superior, do downward pick slanting. And then you're gonna try to take that information with you. It's like, okay, what did he say? He said angle, okay. It's not fast. That won't work, right? It's important to, you can't apply stuff like pick slanting and angling of the pick without also looking at what you're actually trying to play. That's the first one. So I'm just saying that in case you've hit like a brick wall when trying to, analyze stuff. It just doesn't work. it's hard, it's complicated. Even though it looks like you're just holding the pick and doing something supernatural, small stuff matters here. So, having said this, I'd like to point out that it's also a good idea to think of what is it that you're trying to solve, right? What do you want to achieve with your picking? What is the end goal here? Are you looking for a super staccato sound, basically that kind of sound? That's a perfectly legitimate reason to working on your picking chops. But if you're just looking for smooth flowing runs, maybe you don't even have to go through the hassle of learning to alternate pick super fast, right? Because you could do that with legato, you could do it with sweeping, you could do it with hybrid picking, you could do it with any combination. And learning to alternate pick super fast and fluid, pick every note, it's pretty damn difficult. It takes a lot of time. Is that really what you're looking for? That's also an important question. And basically the link I gave you, or that I was about to give you, but I didn't give it to you, which was that muscle thing, the technique builder thing, that is a very good starting point because it shows you all the different ways you can achieve like a smooth flowing technique. And you're gonna find that some are much, much, much easier than others. So unless you specifically really want that alternate picking sound, maybe it's not the best technique for you to start with. Maybe you're going to get so much faster results if you go for another technique. You know, so I'm trying to sort of define the framework here of where I think you should be navigating. These are important topics. But okay, let's say that you know very specifically what you want to achieve. You want that sound that is so typical to alternate picking, that staccato sound. Perhaps you're looking for the kind of control that allows you to, you know, accent notes on the fly when you're playing fast and stuff like that. That requires more picking control. And it's a cool thing to do for sure. So, I'm just trying to give you a generic answer here because even if it doesn't apply to you, since we have other watching, I'm trying to catch everybody here in here, sort of. So if you really want that specific, machine gun sound of picking, then you have to start looking more precisely on what type of licks you're looking for. Because one of the easiest way to do this is if you sort of skip the string traverse, right? That's the hardest part, where you go from one string to another while keeping that even flow of picked note. That's difficult, right? Maybe you don't need that. Maybe you're happy with this kind of thing, right? Where you do on one string. It sounds kind of machine gun-like, and it's much easier, much, much easier. Maybe, could be if I had warmed up. Okay, so one more time. It's not strict alternate picking, but it's a lot of picking in here. What I'm trying to tell here is that, or what I'm trying to explain is that you can get that specific staccato machine gun sound by just playing on one string. So if you want to be able to throw that in your solo, that's a good way to do it. I know a lot of people that do this successfully. One of them is actually Yngve. I suspect that he started maybe doing these stuff. That's the easiest thing. And then gradually he found ways to start doing string traverse. Another one, Swedish guitarist, is Mattias Ia Eklund. I don't think he is like the most proficient picker with string traverse at all. Although he has a lot of qualities, but I don't think that is one of them. However, his like one string picking is insane, you know? It sounds awesome. It's just and so precise. Just throwing out some stuff out there. But what I've found I want to go for when learning to pick is actually, and this is just for me personally, my highest goal with technique stuff is to be able to improvise and jam. So I will do whatever it takes to be covered in as many situations as possible, right? I want to have a technical solution for anything I can think of on the fly. That is my purpose when I practice picking. So that means I am more than happy to sacrifice a pick note here and there for legato if it means I got more situation covered. Again, if it means that I have more situations covered. So basically, if using a bit of legato helps me solve more problems, I'm happy to do it. And that's what I've found as well. For me, the optimal way of doing it is to combine picking and legato. That's gonna work almost every time, you know. I can really go in any direction. I can switch between sweeping, legato, tapping. So that is the magic formula. And a lot of times I get to hear that my alternate picking skills are really good, but you know, don't tell them I'm not picking that much, you know. So really, if you can find a way to smoothly transition between picking and legato, no one's gonna notice, and you'll have a super useful technique. So that is the question I would probably go about answering. You see, a lot of talking here before we could even get to the actual concise teaching here. I'm just gonna see what you guys are saying. Yeah, BRS Reviews agrees with me there. Hammer-ons and pull-offs instead of alternate picking everything. That would be my way of doing it. Weaving in some legato in there. Let's see here. Can you even do chicken picking on the guitar? Yeah, I do hybrid picking, yeah. And that's also a cool topic, by the way. It feels a lot... here it is, by the way, this kind of thing. If you look at my right hand, you know... you'll see I'm using these fingers a lot, right? It feels like my hand is being held down by a load of bricks and unable to build the speed. That's interesting extra information there. I want to be able to play tasty fusion funk blues shops. Not shredding, okay. Well, I think you answered the question there. I don't think, if that's what you're going for, spending all that time for becoming the best alternate picker in the world is probably not the best invested time here. I would say you should definitely go for a combination, because I think the best fusion guitarists, to me at least, you know, like Guthrie Govan, Greg Howe, or they use a combination of that stuff. And some use strictly legato, like Alan Holsworth, but some, you know, like Sean Lane, also super nice combination there. But I think the main issue here is that your hand is being held down by a load of bricks. You're unable to build a speed. To me, that sounds an awful lot like there might be a lot of tension in your hand there. How should I explain that? Because you choose to describe it as a load of bricks that is holding you down, and there's actually no reason for you to feel like that. Especially not, you know, the hand isn't heavy. So to me, that tells me there's probably tension going on there. And maybe not just tensing, maybe you're not tensing up, you know, as you're playing. Maybe it's the kind of tension that is built into your playing, because that is something I've seen a lot. So what happens is, if you approach learning something difficult, or rather if you skip the learning part and just try to play it as you're playing, or as you're improvising in a song, whatever, what tends to happen is, not only do you fail, but you also tend to consolidate bad habits, because you sort of know in advance, as you're about to play that, you're likely to mess up. So a lot of things happen. Your brain is telling your body to prepare for disaster. You will be tensing up. And after a while, it becomes like a self-fulfilling prophecy there. You know that as soon as you attempt that thing, you're gonna fail, and you start adapting, and it's just a mess in there, right? I'm not saying that's your case. Obviously, I would have to, you know, see you play to make a better assessment there. But I've seen this in so many cases that it's probably gonna be useful for someone watching this. So, what you should do is never ever try to play something advanced before you're prepared for it, okay? So the first thing is to sort of take a step back. This doesn't mean that you have to relearn everything. No, you're probably even gonna benefit a little bit from your attempts, but in order to sort of reach that threshold where you're actually be able to play it, you still have to take a few steps back. So you're going to have to basically clean up your technique. You're going to have to go back and fix mistakes. That is something a lot of people have to do, including myself. I've done that because I spent a lot of time pushing my playing into speeds I was not prepared for. So I had a lot of tension I had to get rid of. I had bad hand sync. I had some muting and issues with muting noise. But the main thing was really tension. Many licks I was unable to play without tension, although the licks did not require any tension. There are some cases where you have to tense up and use a little bit of muscle, but in most cases that's unnecessary. So I'd say for most people that I've seen, a good 80% of the times where they apply tension, they wouldn't need to apply that tension. That tension is limiting them. So what I'm trying to get at is you can probably take any picking exercise that fits the genre of what you're trying to achieve, maybe some, I don't know, some fusion sounding picking pattern or something, and take a step back and think actively about relaxing and controlling tension. You can't do that on itself. You can't just do that, right? You also need to make sure the tempo you're practicing gives your brain the time to think about being relaxed, especially if you should be one of those people who has kind of tension programmed into your hands. This is just a long, many sentences to say slow down, right? Slow down. Move the metronome down to really low BPMs so that you can think about being relaxed, okay? Think of, there's so many things that have been said about that. You can think about holding some kind of chicken in your hand or whatever, and you wouldn't want to squeeze it. But the bottom line is you have to be relaxed in your whole body. You can't just be relaxed in your arm, because if you're tensing up in your legs or whatever, the rest of the body is going to be tense as well. So it all fits together. That's why you get to the point where I actually start doing yoga instead of practicing, because it's true. It helps us. If you can be totally relaxed, it's going to help you relax your hand. And if you can relax your hand, that's going to help you play these exercises better and correctly and without tension. And if you can do that, well, you're going to learn to pick much better. So it all goes back to yoga. I'm sorry, it's the wrong class here. Go to yoga class. No, but you have to be relaxed, right? That's so important. And then once you've got that down, come all the other things, right? You think about minimizing your hand movement. You try different positions, basically as down and upward pick slanting. You don't need to learn those fancy words. You could just think of it as, how do I angle my hand for this specific lick? All that comes into play, but most likely, get rid of the tension, be totally relaxed. Have a good posture. Again, it's not possible to be relaxed if you have really bad posture. I couldn't give you the exact explanation, but it has to do with nerves that go into your spine and stuff like that. Your body doesn't like sitting like you were dying, right? It wants you to look like when you were born with a straight. Again, it goes back to fundamentals, and I'm not saying that to seem cool or something. It's just my own conclusions. Everything matters. So think about your overall health, posture, and being relaxed, and then start honing in on that specific thing you're working on. Maybe picking, legato, whatever. So if you take things in the wrong order, if you're super tensed up and you're not worried about that, you're worried about downward pick slanting instead, naturally it's going to feel like nothing helps, right? You're following the advice of the pro, but it doesn't work. Well, you're being relaxed. You're not being relaxed. That could be the issue. You could have a more basic underlying issue that is preventing you from applying all these principles and techniques that you are aware of. Just brainstorming a little bit here to try to give you some different perspective. Okay, so let's see what you guys are saying. Exactly, BRS reviews, he's always a couple of minutes before me there, but not tensing up for sure. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay, and some specific advice. Tucking in your fingers and picking out helps with clarity. Okay, cool. What's the best way to get creating... Joso! I haven't seen you in quite a while. Awesome to have you here, mate. What's the best way to get creating a melody lead without going up and down a scale? Aha, cool question. Basically, how do I not sound like I'm playing scales? That's a topic I love. And exactly, Comdesk, we've already spoken quite a bit about that. One of the methods you can use to get out of the scalar boxes and the scalar sounding playing and play more melody based. Definitely, that's pretty much the topic of this one. So when we're done, you can rewind the stream as well. BRS reviews, gotta work on legato. We always have to work on legato. Kalana, sir, can you give me advice how learn a solo in songs like Michael Jackson? I can't hear solo and melody separately. How to learn a solo? So it's like, are you thinking about like a specific solo? Like one of the Slash solos or something like that? Or maybe the EVA, Eddie Van Halen thing? Timothy, one day I'll pick my guitar and play her after tuning her. You should. That's important. Makes sense. Some things you gotta go fail at to learn to get better, and how to fix what you fail at applies to guitar too. Exactly. Yeah, so Jaffer, I'm just giving you generic advice now because your question is generic since I don't know you're playing. So just take whatever you think fits you. But generally, the stuff you gotta think about when learning to pick, it's all out there. I wouldn't say there are any real secrets. I think a lot of times people have problems adapting all the knowledge that is out there on the internet and whatnot because they have a more fundamental issue underlying. That's what's preventing them. So if all the typical advice doesn't apply to you, then probably I would say there's something more fundamental that is stopping you from learning. It could just be that you're doing everything right, but you need to spend more time on it. I don't even know how long you've been practicing this stuff. That's why I'm saying this is generic advice that is designed to work for as many people as possible, basically. We have a Canadian in the UK, but do we have an Englishman in New York? We don't know. Maybe we do. Are you an Englishman in New York? Let us know. Nice guitar. I own 2 vintages in the photo. Mixing the scales to make it sound good. Is that a question? How to mix scales to make it sound good? Okay, I guess, do we have like a follow-up question on the picking topic since we ended up elaborating so much on it? I'm just gonna go through some of the other questions I've got here. So I could just quickly expand upon that thing Joso asked about. What's the best way to get creating a melody lead without going up and down a scale? We could use the call and response method. I'm not going to go through that again since we did it in this specific video. But you could also think in other terms. I like to expand my scales based on, how should I say? Slash once said that, if there's nothing in my head, then there's nothing I can play, right? If there's nothing in my head, then there's nothing to play. So what he meant by that, or actually what I think he meant by that, is that he doesn't play stuff just for the sake of playing and practicing your fingers. He plays stuff when there's intent, when he wants to play something, when he hears something in his head. Now you might be thinking, oh well, how does that apply to me? I'm no Slash, I'm just trying to learn the guitar. It does apply to you because there are several disadvantages to just playing for the sake of playing. If you just play a scale up and down because you think that's going to benefit you, but you don't really have a vision of how you want it to sound, then you're basically programming your fingers to do generic stuff, right? You're telling your fingers, this is how you should do it. You should play your scale up and down. So a different way to go about it would be to start with your head and not with your fingers. And wait me out on this because I think it's going to apply to you. Now, if you don't have a clear vision of what to play, like Slash probably has, then a good start is to simply not play the scale up and down. Instead, just find 1 or 2 notes. Okay, so we have something in B minor, right? So instead of just doing playing scale, whatever, we could just find one note, right? We have our just two notes, okay? Maybe add something. Yeah, slide is cool. Yeah, that's more interesting. Maybe some tremolo picking there. Nah, that doesn't work well. We already have that feeling with the backing. Maybe do some bending there. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is that even if you don't have that clear vision of how you want things to sound, there's still a better way to start exploring scales than just playing them up and down. Because what happens when you do it this way around is that slowly, you're going to expand upon your scale knowledge, right? We started with 2 notes, and we did. But chances are, if you play it the next day, you might want to play 3 notes, right? And the 4th or the 3rd day, you might want to add another note. So, and if you're expanding upon your fretboard knowledge and your scale knowledge, doing it like this, then basically you will have all these personal connections to the dots on your fretboard. It won't be something you're just struggling to memorize. It's going to be something that you have a musical and personal connection to, and that kind of thing results in cool, unpredictable, and personal playing, as opposed to the kind of playing that just tells you that the guitarist is memorizing the dots on the fretboard. Does this make sense? I think this really goes down to the core of how you learn stuff on the guitar, and there are unfortunately way too many people that tell you to start playing scales up and down. Don't do it. You can definitely use that scale diagram as a reference and just try to visualize, your frames of what you can do. But don't use it as a substitute for inspiration in music. There are other ways. You can just steal someone else's melody, or you can steal someone else's rhythm and try to come up with your own melody applied to that rhythm, There are lots of ways you can play a scale without it sounding like you're playing a scale up and down. And I think the core of it really goes down to start small, just play a few notes, and that can take you to big places. Just see what you guys are saying here. Kalana, what's up? How to learn guitar solos in songs by hearing without tabs. Ah, okay. Got it. I got it. Actually, I'm building a little game right now, a guitar playing game that doesn't involve any guitar playing, but it involves ear training. It'll probably be ready next week on the GMC website. If you go to the tools section there, we have something that's called the skills game, or the skills tester. And we currently have some games where you can identify chords and stuff like that. We're going to add ear training next week. That's going to be, I think, a cool method for you to do it. Simply focus on your ear training abilities. And that's going to help you, obviously, transcribe solos and stuff like that. But the basic principles, how do you transcribe stuff by ear, is not very fancy and it's not very romantic, because the way the pros have done it, I've done it a little bit, but not as much as I should have probably. But the way you work when transcribing a solo, especially in the beginning, is you spend an awful amount of time maybe just transcribing the first 2-3 notes of a solo, because you suck at it. Now, why is this good? Why is it good to spend an awful amount of time just to figure out 2 or 3 notes when you could just get the tab for free from somewhere? The reason being, as you are trying to find the right interval, what is that? No, it's not like that. It's like, no. Oh, there it is, right? When you do that, not only do you finally learn to play that thing you're trying to figure out, but you learn how all the other intervals sounds. The ones that were not right in this case, they were not the intervals you were looking for this solo, but they are still valid intervals. That is why it's okay for it to take like days and weeks and whatnot to figure out just a few notes, because you practice your ear, okay? So I think that maybe this is the answer to your question. This shouldn't be like an easy trick for you to do this, because then you wouldn't train your ears. If you want the easy trick, then just go get the tab, right? You want it to take an awful amount of time, because as you are searching for the right notes, you're going to find all the other notes, and they are going to be super useful as well later on. So I guess that would be my answer. Let it take some time. That's going to benefit you immensely. If you don't want it to take some time, then you're not really looking for the benefits from what you get by learning by ear. There are benefits to that, but you won't get them if you don't want it to take a lot of time. It needs to take time. That's when you practice your ears. That's what I was trying to say. Hope it makes sense. Cool. So I'll just take a little speaking break there and see if we can find some cool backing track to jam over. We've had some fusion requests here. I think this is a pretty cool fusion backing track. I think it's B minor or B Dorian. B minor pentatonic. track anyhow. How to avoid noises in distortion tones. Cool question there. How do we prevent the guitar from just humming and ringing and producing all these unwanted noises? It's a good question. Because the guitar is very good at doing that, right? Especially if you're using a lot of distortion, and especially if you have like single coils, or if you have a guitar that's poorly shielded or has some kind of issue. You can get a lot of noise ringing, right? This one is okay, but Actually, if I turn the noise gate down, there you have it. This is also some hum, and that's hard to get rid of. So what we're really addressing here is how do you control the noise that is produced by mistake, by your playing. That's really what we want to address here. I think it's a good idea to actually, break things down and sort of look at things with a magnifying glass. Why are these sounds happening? So a lot of times you're maybe totally focused on playing a bunch of notes on a couple strings, but you're not thinking as much about what happens on the other strings. So perhaps if you're playing on the G string, and as you're playing, you're also lightly touching the strings under, and they start resonating, and you might get a feedback loop, or just bad stuff happens basically when you're not in control. So I guess it's a bit self-explanatory where I'm getting at here. You don't really want those strings, which you're not playing, they shouldn't be allowed to ring, right? They shouldn't have the freedom to do that. They should be muted, they should be damped, they should not be allowed to vibrate basically. So how do we achieve that? Well, if we're picking a note, or if we're targeting a note on the G string and using our index finger, then why not use the lower parts of our fingers to actually dampen those strings that might give us problems? Okay? This could be part of the solution. But granted, it's not the entire solution, because what happens with the other strings that are above, the thicker strings, we can't really do anything about them with this finger, right? And it's not handy to start, doing that. We have our right hand for that. Our right hand has the ability to mute those strings. So if the right hand and the left hand work with each other, they can effectively mute all the strings that are currently not being played. Again, this is not something you can expect to just start applying. It has to come from slow practicing, because there's so much precision going on, right? If you move down to the D string, then you will also want the right hand to follow. And if you move even further down, the right hand has to follow again. While also, you might need to apply a slightly different curvature or angle here on this finger in order to effectively damp all the notes there. But I just want to give you the basic foundation and the basic idea here. That's how you would really go about thinking in terms of muting. That's how you control noise. And there are more ways to do it, and there are some weird cases where you wonder how people do it, like Martin Friedman, who has his pick down here. But you will notice he very often goes back, so that's probably your answer. The right hand hops up and down there. Okay, so there's a question. What is it that I'm applying on my sound there? Why does it sound like that all of a sudden? This is actually the built-in gate into the Kemper, and I think it's more complex than just saying that it's a gate. I think it's actually an intelligent gate there that is able to understand what notes or what part of the noise is unwanted. Of course, it has a whole spectrum, so if you pull it all the way up, it's gonna take away too much of your tone. So it has this kind of algorithm, and you sort of have to find the sweet spot for you where it doesn't remove too much of your sound, basically. My last break at work. Awesome. The Funk Bomb Bro, the Game Cat. Awesome. You should definitely watch me while at work. I'm sure that's appreciated. No, I'm just kidding, of course. It's appreciated on my end, at least, that's for sure. Okay. So, Kalana, I hope this is somewhat helpful. I'm trying to again give you like a general answer here. If I were to get more specific, I would have to watch you play this. Then I could give you more specific advice. But these are good general pointers. It's generally the kind of thing you want to apply to your slow practicing. And it's another reason why it's so important to actually slow down in the beginning. Just as I was saying that the other stuff is important, or thinking about not being about not tensing up and that kind of stuff. Oh, cool. That's all you talk about at work, guitar playing. So do you have any guitar playing colleagues that you can speak to? Or you're just speaking anyway? Maybe they're not interested. Playing slow is hard, yeah. It is. It is, and it doesn't get easier. It's like built into our DNA as guitarists. We're always trying to push speed, and it's so devastating. You know, it's really true that the slower you can practice, the faster you're going to progress. But I think if people really understood how true that statement is, they wouldn't be doing anything but playing slow. Because you fix all the mistakes. That's how you fix picking inconsistencies. That's how you fix muting issues. That's how you fix tension issues. And if you no longer have problems with tension or inconsistencies or muting, well, guess what? You're going to sound awesome, right? So it's all a matter of slowing down. So true there. Words of wisdom. Oh, I haven't heard the new RHCP song. A lot of people have spoken about it. I love listening to new pop music as well. So, and definitely Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's one of my, I wouldn't say favorite bands, but I listen to them a lot. Oh, cool. So you have some musicians at work. That must be important. That must make it so much more enjoyable. Some metal or something. So you're of course right. The closer you are to the last break, the more guitar playing. And I hope I'm able to inspire you to practice more. My brain is really starting to deteriorate now, so I shouldn't stop. But it's so much fun, jamming with you guys. I can't really stop. Larry, you never heard sounds like that out of a Strat. That's what I've been saying. These pickups, they work for metal, even though they're low output. That's all you're gonna get from me for today. So thanks so much for tuning in. It's been such a blast. I think these sessions are just getting cooler and cooler, and it's all thanks to you. I can't even stop now. I told myself I wasn't gonna go for 2 hours, but we're here 2 hours. That's your fault. Stop being such nice people. Yeah, you're gonna get me sitting here all night. But anyhow, I will be doing a new session in probably just 2 days. And if you can't wait 2 days and you just want to wait 1 day, then you should definitely go to the GMC Facebook page where I'll be hosting one of these same time tomorrow, actually. And if that confuses you, you can click the link in the description that takes you to my personal board on the GMC forum where I also announce these streams. So lots of cool places to catch my streams, basically. And I guess this is goes without saying, but if you want to be notified here on the YouTube platform, you won't get notified unless you click all those subscribe and be notified and whatnot. So do click that so we don't miss each other. Okay, have a good one. Thanks so much for tuning in. See ya. Cheers.